Welcome to the second video project of the semester in which I discuss what I learned on Excel during the last weeks. I strongly believe that Excel was the most important application of the Microsoft Suite for me to learn since it is the one that I will use the most in my future working in accounting and finance, but also because it is the most complex to use and understand. So in this video, I will talk about what I learned throughout the 4 chapters of the Excel modules. So the first one, chapter 8, was about trend lines, pivot tables, pivot charts, and slicers. Then chapter 9 taught me how to work with formula auditing, data validation, and problem solving. Then chapter 10 was about data analysis and macros. And chapter 11 was more about customized user interface and VBA code. To begin, chapter 8 taught me how to work with trend lines, pivot tables, pivot charts, and slicers. So pivot tables and pivot charts are powerful tools that companies can use to visually demonstrate any data they want to, either to the employees of the company or to their clients. I also learned in this module how to work with slicers in Excel, so how to insert them and modify them. So slicers are a very useful tool because they make the worksheet interactive, so people using it can click on any slicer that they want to get the information that they wish. So they can save a lot of time since we do not need to make different tables for every data set. We can only click on any slicer, like any category that we want, and only that category or like these categories that are selected would be shown on the table. So as you can see on the left, I created a pivot table for my company, MOB Training. So I also put slicers beside it. So for example, if you want only to see the adults category, you could choose only like adults recreative, adults RX, and adults skilled. So you wouldn't see the kids and the teens result. And it's the same for the events. You could choose only one if you want to see the results of one event only. Along with the pivot table that you can see on the left, I created a pivot chart in my Excel document that is linked to that table, which is very useful because like once we change any result in the table, it can be like choosing a slicer or changing any value, then the pivot chart will change with the right data. So it's very user friendly and easy to work with. To continue, in chapter 9, I learned about formula auditing, data validation, and complex problem solving using Excel. This module also showed me how to trace precedence and dependence, as well as using error checking to identify errors that I have in my worksheet, which are 2 tools that I didn't even know existed before, and that I will definitely use in the future if, for example, I get an error sign in Excel and I don't know how I could solve my problem. Moreover, I learned how to use the solver tool and scenario summaries, which, as you can see, I used for my document for MOB training. So as you can see, I made an investment calculator slash schedule for MOB training centers for the next 15 years. So I can use Goal Seek, for example. As you can see on the right, I put like the target to 100,000 for the final balance, and then I wanted like to change the initial investment, so the starting balance. So I can like with this Excel tool, I can find how I should like invest today to get $100,000 in 15 years. And then with the solver, I created a a scenario where I wanted also the ending value to be $100,000, but I added some constraints to certain cells that I didn't want higher than certain amounts. So that's how I demonstrated my understanding of the chapter 9 for MOB training. Moreover, chapter 10 was about data analysis with Power Tools and creating macros, similar to what we did in one of the Word modules. So this module is the one that taught me the most new things. First, I learned how to work with Power BI since my Power View didn't work, and also how to do a 3D map. But both of these things I had never used or done before, and I'm very happy that I learned their existence. This chapter also taught me how to work with hyperlinks in an Excel worksheet, so I can either link something to another sheet in my workbook, to a website, any website that I want, and also to a video. It can be basically a link to anything, whether it is inside or outside my workbook, my Excel workbook. So as you can see on the left, I used some of my learnings in the chapter 10 to create a document for my gym. So basically, the document is about the number of gym goers and active people in 8 of the biggest cities in Quebec. So first, as you can see on the top, I used Power BI to create a chart showing the information with a title, and then in my 3D map, this is a screenshot of one scene that shows the 8 cities where they're placed in Quebec, and the little title that says that it's the cities that we evaluate for a new gym. Finally, in chapter 11, I created customized color scheme, font, and theme for the document that I was working with. I also learned how to use VBA code and insert comments in a workbook. So the main thing that I learned in this chapter is how to code in Excel. However, I don't believe that I will use it ever again unless I learn it more in depth, because in this chapter I only copied the code that was in the book in Excel, so I didn't really learn how to use it, so I would not be able to use it again, which is also the reason why it is this document that I didn't recreate out of the 4. But still, as you can see on the right of the document, I created some customized font, color scheme, and then the theme in the middle, which I used for my other 3 documents, which you will see when you open them. They all have the same theme, which is MOB training. So that's what I demonstrated, and that's what I used from chapter 11 in my project, but I didn't choose to do the code because I don't really think I will use it again. I'm not going in IT in the future, and it doesn't really interest me, and it looks and it was pretty complicated. I'm pretty happy that I had it all written for me and that I just had to copy it because it was pretty complicated. To conclude, the 2 main challenges that I faced working with the Excel modules are Power View and VBA code. So first, Power View, in this module, a lot of us had problems and we were not able to work with Power View with our computers, so we used Power BI, but that was pretty complicated because I had to kind of adapt everything to Power BI, and it was not the same, all the same steps, and I was not doing the same thing as it was written in the book. And then the VBA code, as I just talked about, I had the code written, so it went well, but I didn't really understand what I was doing, and I would have liked to have maybe more explanation of what I was doing. The tools that I believe I will use the most are pivot tables, pivot charts, and maybe also the solver tool and scenario summaries, because they enable, like all of them, they enable to change information and see like what would happen if you change some data in your like tables and in your worksheet. So I find that these things are the like most useful when you can change information and see what would happen if like some information or a value was modified without like actually having to change like all the table and like all your worksheet. Then an example of the use of the ladder in a business context. Well, just what I did with MOB training. Like I did an investment schedule for the next 15 years, and then I did a scenario summary with different events that could happen. So with the interest rates being lower, higher, and then the annual investment being higher also. So they all showed the different like ending balances that would happen with the different scenarios. So I believe that that's very useful in a business context. So that's all for my Excel project. Thank you for your time and hope you have a nice day.